Welcome back to In with Denoux.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're going to just go ahead and pick back up where we left off. We had to jump off for a few days, and we're hopping back in right back where we left off. So just to quickly finish up, I was telling a story about my first LSU game in Baton Rouge, the LSU Florida game, and I was talking a little bit about Jacob Hester and just how he was kind of like a gritty player. And I think I actually made a mistake when I was telling the story before, because I was going through and editing a little bit. And I think I had said that LSU went for it on fourth down 5 times, which they did, but I think they did that all on one drive. Like they went for it on fourth down 5 times in one drive. So I was kind of like replaying that in my head, and I was like, wait, I think it was actually 5 times in one drive. That was like the crazy part. Because going for it on fourth down
like
5
8 minutes
times.
off the clock. They just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
8 minutes off that.
yeah, all on one drive. So and then they scored a touchdown on 4th and goal. So it was like it was just crazy. That was a crazy game. So that was my first experience in Baton Rouge. Like I had been to an LSU game before, but that was my first one in Baton Rouge. And so something actually that I wanted to mention, only because it's happened since we recorded the first half of this episode and then jump back in. So we recorded on Sunday and today is Thursday. So from that time to today, my actual next story, sorry, I was going to pass it to you actually, but I just remembered this, that so the next LSU game that I actually went to was the kickoff game of the 2010 season 3 years later. And it was Tyrann Mathieu's very first game. So it was Honey Badger's very first game. He wore number 14 because Patrick Peterson was still there, who was wearing 7. So they played North Carolina in Atlanta in the Superdome, or not the Superdome. Yeah, the Superdome. And he like played out of his mind. Like he was a true freshman, very first game. He forced a fumble in a big point of the game. And then Patrick Peterson had a punt return for a touchdown in that game too. But I brought that up just because he retired, within the last couple of days he retired. So there's been like so much, highlights going around on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram of Honey Badger. So I thought I would throw that out there too, because I was there live for his very first game, which was cool. So
Yeah, Badger, man. I remember, a couple of days ago when that story broke of him retiring, I was like, "Yep, we are officially old." Man, because I remember watching him at LSU, and
mm-hmm.
he was a big piece of that. That season where they went to the national championship. I mean, they didn't win it that year, but
Yeah.
like he was a big piece as to why they made it there. Even in that 9-6 game against Alabama, it was just some of the wildest stuff you would see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was also around the time where Florida was just starting to suck, and I and I just had to just take it. Like I remember Florida, LSU was number 1 in the country, and Florida I don't think was ranked at all. And they were coming into Baton Rouge. It was like a noon or 3:30 game. It wasn't a night game,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one of those games where it's like, all right, we know LSU is gonna win, and I think, yeah, Brad Wing or whatever that Australian dude was,
Yeah, Brad Wing.
like took the punt and went like 50 yards, a fake punt that went 50 yards for a touchdown. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Miles, like
Yeah.
I can't stand this coach. I can't stand this team.
Is that the one that they got called back for taunting because he like went like this, like put his hands out like right at the end
Yeah,
against
yeah,
Florida?
yeah. I think he
Yeah.
did get a call back, but I just remember thinking like just all the momentum was on LSU's side during that time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a bitter time of being in college and watching Florida just get destroyed.
Bro,
Uh,
yeah. That
yeah,
game
was
was
it?
wild. I was just gonna say real quick, then I'll let you keep going. So the reason I remember that game so vividly is that I was actually at the Summers house, at Randy and Betsy Summers house, and so it was obviously like all Florida fans and me, and I just remember like just gloating so much, and then the touchdown got called back, and I think they ended up actually having to kick a field goal if I'm not mistaken. But that was like, I still can't believe they called that taunting, that he literally just kind of went like this, like as he was going in. But yeah, that play was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It was like the final score was like 41-10 or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't close.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking about like moments in Gainesville that I was like I didn't go to a lot of Gator games growing up, unless I just
Uh-huh.
don't remember going. I remember watching them a lot on TV.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like middle school or high school that I actually started going to more games. And even then, I didn't go to like the big profile games. The only game that I remember going to that was in conference matchup, the first one I remember, and it was crazy, was against Vanderbilt of all teams.
Mm.
But this is like 2005, and so this is when Jay Cutler was at Vanderbilt.
Right.
And so Vandy, so he was, he was a high draft pick, and he was actually a pretty good quarterback. He took Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt nearly upset Florida. He took them to triple overtime. I remember I was on the alumni side sitting with one of my friends, and we were eighth grade. We got like their parents' tickets, and so we were just watching Vanderbilt come into the swamp. And I remember thinking, like, why are we struggling with Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt's not good. Like, these are one of the bottom feeders of the SEC. Like, we should be dominating them.
Yeah.
But Jay Cutler was just throwing dots. I think he ended
Hmm.
that game with like 400 yards and like 4 touchdowns. It was something crazy. But he was
Yeah.
slicing up the Gators defense, and we got lucky in third overtime. Like D Webb, like intercepted a pass to end the game. But I just remember thinking, like, are we really about to lose to Vanderbilt? And this is gonna be my first memory of an interconference game.
Yeah.
Eventually, I should have seen the writing on the wall of like this is gonna be a rough time. But that was 2005, so that was the year before they went on to win the
Right.
national championship.
Right.
A little bit of
And
hope before the letdown.
right. And Jay Cutler was nasty in college too. Like I don't know, I don't really remember if he was like highly recruited or something, but he was much better than what Vanderbilt usually had, and obviously he was a high draft pick. So, I don't know if he maybe was like a late bloomer and wasn't a high recruit or something, but he was
Mhm.
nasty in college. But yeah, so actually my freshman year of college in 2007, which was the same year that from the story I just told about like my first game in Baton Rouge, but I actually, funny enough, had season tickets to the Gators that year. It was my first year in Gainesville, and obviously like I wasn't a Florida fan, but my best friend at the time that I lived with him and his sister, and his sister was in her final year of PA school, and then she was going to be getting married and like moving. Um, so she lived by herself, but then when we were moving up our freshman year, she was just like, "Hey, do y'all just want to like all live together? Then y'all can take the apartment, and like I'm gonna be moving out or whatever." So I guess like certain students that were in like PA school or getting their PhD or getting their masters and something kind of had like first dibs of like season tickets because they were the oldest students or whatever. At that time, I don't know if it's still that way,
Yeah.
but because she was in her last year of PA school, she was basically going to be traveling to different like hospitals around Florida. And so she was going to be out of town like a lot of the time. So she basically asked us like, "Hey, do you guys want me to get these tickets and then y'all can take them?" And so that's what we did. And so we got to go to all the home games, and then the tickets also included the Florida Georgia game in
Ooh.
Jacksonville. So it was actually funny because 2007 obviously was the year that LSU won the national championship, but Florida I believe had 3 losses that season, and I just
Three or
happened to
four, something like that. Yeah,
it
three or
was either
four.
3 or 4, but I happened to be at. Oh, you know what? It was 4 because I happened to be at all the losses that year because I went to the LSU game away. So they lost to Auburn at home that year on like a
Yeah.
last second field goal, if I'm not mistaken. They lost to LSU, then they lost to Georgia in that Georgia game, and maybe I'm forgetting a game, but I thought they only lost 3, but I might be forgetting one. But
It
that
might
was the
be, you know what,
year,
I'm thinking, I think they might have went 9-4 because they lost the bowl
the bowl
game.
game.
They played
Yeah,
Michigan in the bowl game that year.
yeah, you're right. So I guess I wasn't at the bowl game, but I was at the 3 regular season losses. And so funny
Oh,
enough, like,
that had to be fun for you. You're trying to act like you're
well,
not happy about that. How was
well,
that the
what's
three losses?
I'll be completely honest, bro. So when I came in, obviously I was never gonna like not be an LSU fan. You know what I'm saying? Like that was not on the table at all. But when I was living there and like I was going to school and stuff, I was like, you know what? Like maybe I'll like try to give the Gators a chance like when they're not playing LSU. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
I actually like had a hat, and I like would wear like the shirt and hat to the games. And I was like, let me give him a shot, you know. But bro, like every time I would go to the game, like in the back of my mind, I was like, I just want them to lose so badly. Like it was, I just couldn't shake it, bro. Like I legitimately tried to
That's a
like
true
give them a
rival.
chance, and I was
That's a
like,
true rival.
I was like, yeah, I can't do it. I was like, I hate wearing these colors. Feels like my skin's burning. But
That's a
honestly,
true
like,
rivalry.
yeah, I'm just so much of a college football fan though that I still have fun like going to the games and whatnot.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
and I mean, Florida does have like one of the best atmospheres as well, like in all of college football. So yeah, so it was dope. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
You know what's crazy? The most memorable games I've been to actually haven't been Florida games, which
mm,
is kind of crazy.
yeah,
I think that partly is because like I never went to really any top matchups back in high school, which when they were really good, when Urban Meyer was there.
mm-hmm,
I never
yeah,
like I went to more of like their season openers, which they would play like Troy or Hawaii,
right,
you know.
right,
And those tickets were cheaper, but and you see your favorite players dominate. But I didn't go
right,
to like them playing LSU or South Carolina or Alabama or anything like that. But interestingly enough, when I got to Rutgers, so after I graduated UF, I went and took a job with the campus ministry, and we
mm-hmm,
had tickets to Rutgers. It was Rutgers versus Wisconsin for, and this wasn't a close game. I don't know why I'm saying meaningful as if it was close. It was Rutgers versus Wisconsin, and Wisconsin had Melvin Gordon at the time.
that's dope.
So I was like, oh, I want to see Melvin Gordon, see how he was.
Yeah,
Man, that man destroyed Rutgers.
he's nasty,
he
bro.
went,
He was so
he went
nasty.
for like he went for like 180, and it was crazy. He went for
Yeah,
like 183 touchdowns, and then the following
yeah,
week was the week where he went for like 400 yards. So it
bro.
was just he was on an absolute tear. But I was like, oh, I want to see Melvin Gordon come and play Rutgers, and he dominated. Like the final score, I think was like 38-0. Rutgers had no
I
shot.
believe it. Man, that was during that stretch when Wisconsin had like three or four like unbelievable backs that just went
Yeah, like
nuts.
Monty Ball.
Monty Ball. And then there was one other. Was it Jonathan Taylor?
Well, no, he was later. Jonathan
He
Taylor was
was
pretty recent.
later. That's true.
Yeah, he was much later. Like Wisconsin's always had
Yeah.
like good running backs, right? But
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor was a bit later than the other two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
then
yeah,
the other
that's
cool game. Yeah, go ahead.
no, go. You're good. You're good.
I was gonna say the other cool game I went to was when I was at Syracuse.
Mhm.
I watched them upset Clemson when Clemson was defending their
Mm,
national championship.
that's
So this was
dope.
2017. That was dope. Yeah, because everybody rushed the field. That was
Yeah,
dope.
that's cool.
And nobody was counting Syracuse to win that game. But I remember thinking, I was like,
No.
you know, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I'm not really sold on Kelly Boyd, and they don't have Deshaun Watson anymore. Just the year before,
Mhm.
they got Trevor Lawrence, so I'm thinking maybe we'll see them do good. I don't know.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that would be cool. I think it would be really cool to see like a game like that, like a super big upset in college. Because I've never,
Yeah,
to be honest, like outside of those Florida games I was just talking about when I had the season tickets, I think I've only been to one other college football game that wasn't an LSU game and or a Florida game, and that was also my freshman year when I had those season tickets. Me and two of my friends, we drove to Tampa and went to USF UCF. So, but
okay.
that was like we honestly just did that just to like do it, you know? Like both teams were terrible. It was like before UCF. Like UCF's had been on a good run the last like decade or so, maybe a little less than that, 8 years or so. This was in '07, so both teams were really bad. I honestly don't even remember who won that game. But it was fun though. We had fun. And one of my best friends from high school, so when I was in high school, I actually really wanted to go to USF. So I got in everywhere that I applied, but there was like I was paying my own way with everything, and then I had bright futures, but like 75% bright futures.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was like paying
I
my own
wonder if
way.
they still
So
do that down there.
I think they do. I think they do, honestly. But yeah, so I wanted to go somewhere like when I was applying for schools, I was like I wanted to go somewhere where like everyone from my high school was going to UCF in Orlando. So I was like I don't want to go there. Like I don't want to go where everyone in my high school is going. But I was like I also want to go somewhere where I at least know somebody. And so one of my really good friends, Amanda, was going to USF, and she was like, "Oh, you should apply to USF." And so she was there, and so this was also before I started going back to church. But when we went to that game, I stayed with her and like visited with her, like stayed in her dorm and visited with her, and so that was cool too. That was the last time I've seen her. But so it was a cool weekend. Got to catch up with her, and then I don't even know where my two friends stayed. To be honest, I don't know if they got a hotel or if they knew somebody.
They had no spot. He was just like, yeah, me and Amanda for the chill.
Yeah, because I was thinking about, I was like, well, I know where I stayed, but I don't remember where they stayed. I don't know if they got a hotel. They honestly probably knew somebody there that they stayed with.
Yeah.
But and then we all sat together like at the game and whatnot. But
Yeah.
but it was fun, and it's in the
Upsets are-
Bucks Stadium.
Yeah,
What's that?
Upsets are. I was gonna say upsets are interesting in terms
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
going to some of these games of underrated teams. Like I think I was hoping for the Rutgers one against Wisconsin. I was like, maybe Rutgers was gonna upset because it was their first year in the Big Ten. And I
Yeah,
think if I'm not mistaken, they beat Michigan that year. Like that was their
Mm.
first ever Big Ten opponent. They beat Michigan, so I was like, okay, maybe Rutgers is on to something. Another example I have of that was 2022. Emily and I actually went to a Washington game. It was Washington.
Mm.
It was their second to last year in the Pac-12, but their out of
Mhm.
conference opponent was Michigan State. And
Ooh,
Michigan State was like ranked number 11. So they were coming into, and it was a home game. So they were coming into Seattle. And this is before people really knew about Michael Penix, Roma Dunze,
yeah,
all those guys. And Washington lit those boys up. Like,
yeah, I believe it.
like Penix, I think threw for like 300 yards, two touchdowns. Like all those receivers that we know about, like they all like shine. And Washington wasn't ranked. Like Michigan State was
Mhm.
ranked 11 in the country at the time, and so it was a big upset.
Yeah,
But I remember just watching it thinking like, man, like nobody who's really stopping this Washington team in the Big
yeah,
Ten or in the Pac-12 at least. I was like really shocked to kind of see like this team really has some juice. And then obviously 2023 happened when they
yeah,
went all the way to the national championship.
yep, yeah. I definitely would love to go to a game out there. I'll have to come out there during football season one of these days, because I've heard the atmosphere there is real dope at UW.
It is, man. It is. It
Yeah,
is. Like they get excited. They get loud.
yeah,
It's fun. I'm
because
not. I'm not even gonna lie. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fun.
because I know the stadium's a lot smaller than like what we're used to in SEC country and like Big Ten as well. But I heard that it's still like a really, really good atmosphere, and that they have, like, I can't remember. Someone was talking about specifically like University of Washington recently, and they were just saying that like not just University of Washington, but also like Seattle, like the Seattle Seahawks fans, that they're just like they have like real unique like game day traditions slash like celebrations, tailgate stuff. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting. So, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
so
haven't been to a tailgate at UW. I will say as far as like the football fandom out here, man,
mhm.
like they can get just as rowdy as we're used to seeing in SEC country. Maybe
Yeah,
not in terms of like the volume of people, but
sure,
certainly the
sure,
volume of just the audio.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
like we went to a Seahawks game. It was actually against the Niners, right? So an
hmm,
interconference rivalry, right? A division rivalry. And man, and that game came down to the wire. That came down to a goal line stand by the Seahawks.
hmm,
And let me tell you something. During that time, like Emily was right next to me, and I could not hear her say anything.
yeah. Wow,
It
that's
was
cool.
loud, and they don't
Deafening.
have that many people. Like it was like only 60,000 people, but the way it's structured, and Washington Stadium is similar. Like if they get
Yeah.
loud enough, like it's deafening.
Hmm.
The nickname for Washington's stadium is the greatest setting in college football. And I was
Really?
like, man, what y'all talking about? Yeah. I was like, what y'all talking about? But they're really talking about like in terms of like the
The
stadium is
view?
on the lake.
Yeah,
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 the view. It
yeah,
was gorgeous because you have the Lake Washington right in the backdrop. So like if you're sitting really from anywhere you sit, you can see it. And it's just
yeah.
so cool seeing like birds fly right over it, or people the tailgating, like you said, people are on boats or on yachts,
Mm,
like in the
that's
lake,
crazy.
like right outside the stadium. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's a sight to see.
yeah. Because I remember when I was there, we did drive by it. Because I remember saying that I was like, oh, I didn't realize the stadium was like on the water. So I remember because we drove. Now it was kind of like off into the not like the distance, but when we drove by, it wasn't like we were right next to it, but you could see like what you're talking about. That it's like on the lake, on the water, and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be really cool to go to. But okay, are you cool if I steer away from college football?
Let's do it.
Cool.
I mean, we can talk about
So
college football forever. So
yeah, I know. So the only reason I'm steering away is because I know we were talking about like fandom, like moments and like stretches of time. So I would say outside of LSU football, the next like sport slash team that I'm most passionate about is the Miami Heat. So and again, I know we don't have like a bunch of listeners that don't know us yet, but hopefully once we get more of a following, people will go back to the beginning and come through or whatever. So for those that in the future that listen and don't know, because like you know how like certain people have weird array of teams. Like I'm one of those people where it's like, why are you an LSU fan, a Miami Heat fan? You know what I mean? So, but so yeah, a bunch of people in my family, my dad, my mom, my granddad, my great granddad, all went to LSU. So I grew up an LSU fan, and my dad grew up in Louisiana, but I grew up in South Florida. So, and my sport of choice that I actually played was basketball competitively, like in high school and stuff. And so when we moved to South Florida, I became a Heat fan, and so that stretch of the Big Three era was like the height of my fandom in the NBA. So it's crazy, bro. I remember. So, well, before that, like, I will say, I'll just say this part real quick.
Also had Shaq and Wade and Haslam already before that.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is that real quick before I get to the Big Three? The first championship that they won with Shaq and Wade in 2006. So I actually went to the stadium. Like I couldn't get tickets for the actual games, but on the away games when they were in Dallas, the AAA, they opened up to where fans could come in and watch the game on the Jumbotron. So I did that for the two games that were in Dallas, or two of the games that were in Dallas. I did that with my best friend and my best friend's little brother. We went to the stadium and watched. So that was super cool. And that was the Heat's first championship. Yeah. And I remember, when Wade got drafted in 2003, it was a real interesting draft because obviously it was the LeBron draft. Like that was the biggest part of the draft, as it was LeBron. Carmelo was the next biggest, and then you had Bosh, Wade were all in the same. But then you had before I say that, so the way the order was, it was Cleveland was first, Detroit was second, Denver was third, the Raptors were fourth, and the Heat were fifth in that draft. So the Heat were like at the back end. There was four. It was, LeBron, Carmelo, Bosh, Wade. And so it was like, who are the Heat going to get? Because they're fifth. So it's like, so everyone in Miami wanted Chris Bosh, realistically, because it's like everyone knew LeBron was going first and Melo was going second. So everyone in Miami was like, Bosh, because Bosh was actually the big name. And he went to Georgia Tech. And so everyone in Miami was Bosh. But then at 2, the Detroit Pistons took Darko Milicic, which was like, what? Like they took Darko Milicic over Carmelo, Bosh, and Wade. Now, granted, it made sense for Wade because I think people, if you weren't in Miami, you wouldn't realize, like everyone now looking back is probably like, oh yeah, like of course they took Wade,
Right.
But the thing was, Dwayne Wade had been at Marquette for like 4 years. Like he was older than Melo and LeBron. And it was like he was a little bit more of a late bloomer than those guys. But he had an unbelievable March Madness tournament like that season that he was going in the draft. And so me and my dad had watched the March Madness. And I was like, I hope this guy Wade falls to us. Like, whatever. And me and my dad were listening to the draft on the radio. So then at 4, the Raptors took Chris Bosh, and then the Heat took Dwayne Wade. So it was like a lot of people in Miami were actually upset initially because everyone wanted Bosh. But then obviously, the rest is history, as they say. But yeah, 06.
That's crazy that you get the top 3 players from the 03 draft, or 3 of the top 5 players from the 03 draft.
Yeah.
On one team.
And the crazy part about the Big Three is that it was supposed to be Carmelo Anthony was the third and not Chris Bosh. Like it was supposed to be LeBron, Wade, and Carmelo. But Carmelo Anthony didn't want to do it or whatever. And so he like re-upped with Denver, and then eventually got traded to New York. But because I think like Bosch was friends with them, but like Wade, Melo, and LeBron were like super tight, and then Bosch I think got closer to that group during the Big Three era. So, but yeah, those years were so much fun, man. And obviously they were in the finals all 4 years that they were there, and then they won too. But the finals always takes place like during my birthday. So it was like every year during those 4 year stretch, it was like the Heat were in the finals. And then in Gainesville, like usually I would have like people over to the house to watch the games, and usually at least one game would be like on my birthday or like the day before or day after.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a nice little birthday tradition there for 4 years to watch the Heat in the finals.
So just got used. This is my birthday gift. Like watch the Heat.
Yeah,
I get to watch the Heat in the finals.
Exactly. So that was probably my next, like, the highlight of my sports fandom or whatever. But
Gators. And we have like other pro sports, like you got the Orlando Magic, you got the Miami Heat, you got the Florida Marlins, the Rays, right? And you got the NFL teams. I think the closest thing I came to another fandom was the Tampa Bay Bucks growing up. Similar to my dad. My dad, so we moved to Gainesville because he was going to UF at the time, and that's how we all became Gator fans. Many members of my family are actually Florida State fans, so that's pretty funny to just be able to have those conversations. But my dad is a huge Tampa Bay fan because he grew up in St. Pete, Tampa area, so that's where Bucks play and everything. And I will watch some games, but I wasn't like a huge diehard fan of the Bucks. And I mean, I was excited when they won their Super Bowl back in 2002. I never really like all the stuff I knew about them. I followed them because of my dad, really. So I was more into college and Florida. So I knew more about Florida football than I did about really any NFL. But when I got out of Florida and moved to Jersey and, got to experience the Northeast, because up there it's like the switch. It's the opposite. Like they love pro football up there as compared to college. You got the Giants, the Jets, you got the Patriots, you got the Bills, you got the Steelers, the Eagles. You have so many, the Commanders now. You have so many teams to root for out there. And that was also at the time when I moved up there was a time where Seattle was still on top of the NFL. OBJ, it was his rookie season. Like it was a really cool time, like in terms of like a time to start getting into or to revitalize this love of NFL.
Yeah.
So I was following the Giants for a little bit because they were fun to watch, or at least OBJ was fun to watch, and being in Jersey, like they were a lot of fun. I was following, and Cam Newton was still rising star, like watching Carolina a little bit was fun. Seattle, of course, like they were still the team to beat. So like I remember watching vividly their NFC divisional round against Carolina and how they just locked up Cam that entire game.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, I think because of like moving around, like I didn't really feel a team that I was like, okay, I'm gonna stick and stand behind this NFL team.
Yeah.
Not until really I moved out here, and I became a fan of like Seattle pro sports teams. Like I got me Seahawks hat, I got a Mariners hat, I got hopefully the Sonics will return.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, like I'm looking forward to that. And that's looking brighter.
Yeah,
like
that'll happen.
The idea of the Sonics returning, so I'm just getting excited about that. But I've watched a few Storm games, like here, like they're the basketball footprint here. I've been to a Kraken game, like a Seattle, like a NHL game.
And I'm getting into hockey, bro. I love me some hockey now,
dude. Going to those games, like going in person, is so cool. Like I mean, like it's so fast, and yet, but those hits are so vicious, like even more vicious sometimes than football. Like I'm like, whoa, just checking this dude into a wall, like,
yeah, dude. Going in person in hockey is And I've gotten into it even like on TV, especially playoff hockey, because playoff hockey is fun, dude. Like it's intense, and I feel like people will say like I'm bandwagon because like all of a sudden the Florida Panthers are super good, and I like hockey all of a sudden. But it's actually funny. So I will say that I've gotten way more into it the last 2 years when they've been really good, and they've obviously won 2 straight Stanley Cups. But the year before they went on this run, because they also went to the finals 3 years in a row, and they've won the last 2. So they lost in the finals 3 years ago, and the year before that they had the best record in the regular season, and then lost, I think, like in the second round or something like that. But I actually started watching a little bit more the year prior to that 4-year run, because when I was living back down in Broward, and I lived with my friend Tim. My friend Tim is like a huge fan. Like he has season tickets to the Panthers, and he plays hockey, like a rec league hockey and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think
So
I do
he's
that.
like, yeah, so he's like super into hockey, and he's been a Panthers fan for a while. Like when they were like terrible, he was a fan. And so the year before they started going on this good run, I'm not even joking, the Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers were like the same team. Like they were like mediocre, but it was like they were underperforming. They would like look really good, and then they would look terrible. But like for like 2 years, they were like the exact same, down to the point where 3 years ago, when the Panthers went to the finals, they were the 8th seed in the East, and they went to the finals. And 3 years ago, in the 2022 or 2023 season, the Heat were also the 8th seed and went to the finals and lost. Like it was insane how similar the two teams were. And it was like Tim was like super into the hockey, and I was super into the Heat, and then we would talk to each other about them. So I started to like get into hockey a little bit through him. And then as they've had good seasons, now I'm like into it, bro. Like I watched every playoff game, like I watched all the finals games. So I need to get me some Panthers gear. So but yeah, hockey's fun. I would like to go to a Kraken. I forgot about the Kraken out
Yeah.
there. But
They have
there's
a
actually
really cool presentation too, because like the
yeah.
Kraken, obviously is like unique, like it's like sea monster type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So they have like a cool presentation like on the like an ice show right before their
Yeah.
team is announced of
That's
like
dope.
releasing the Kraken. That was like, okay, that's cool.
That's cool. That's cool. So I actually, one of the pictures I took when I was out there, it was actually when we were approaching the Pike Place market, and I was taking a picture of the sign, like the public market or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to do this, but like there's a picture where it's like that sign, and then right below is like I don't know if it was a newspaper stand thing or whatever, but it has a Kraken sticker. And when I took the picture, it's like it looks like it's intentional. It's like the Kraken sticker, but it totally wasn't. But it's actually kind of a cool picture.
You
I
gotta
think
get all the Seattle stuff. All the Seattle stuff.
Yeah. So I actually am upset with myself that I didn't buy a Mariners hat when I was out there. I don't know why I couldn't decide on one, and when I couldn't decide on one, I just didn't get one at all. But I totally should have got.
They're not your team.
Well, that's
You're
true. That's true. But it was.
person.
Well, I'm actually a Yankee fan. That one, I guess. So I'll go through my weird fandom really quickly. So
yes, please go through your weird fandom, because I remember seeing a poster of Miami Marlins in your apartment.
Yeah. So
when they won in 03.
Yeah, I did root for the Marlins because I live down there, and so like I like to see them do well. And I actually, that 03 World Series, I actually went to one of the games. Me and my dad got tickets through. There was a woman at the church that we went to down there, and she worked like PR for the Marlins. Or no, I'm sorry. She worked for the Orange Bowl. She worked for the Orange Bowl or whatever. And she was yeah. And funny enough, they played the Cleveland Indians at the time, Cleveland Guardians now. And she was from Cleveland, so she was actually a Cleveland fan. And so, bro, it was actually super. It was super cool. We got to go to a game, me and my dad, but it was super unfortunate because they basically gave us an option like, hey, do you want to go to this game or go to this game? And I think it was like either game 6 or game 7 or game 5 or game 6. And we chose the first game because it was like if the Marlins won, then they won the whole thing. And so it was like we don't want to pick game 6 and then they win and then we don't get to go at all. But what ended up happening is that they lost the game we went to and then they won the next game. So it was like if we had chose the second game, we would have seen them win. It's like a chance you can't really take. But So that's kind of why I had that poster thing. Is we actually went to one of the games, and that poster thing that you're talking about, it was actually like a wooden poster kind of thing. I actually ended up giving that to Sydney Saint C,
Yes, it.
because he's like all South Florida sports. He's like a massive like super fan. The Dolphins, the Marlins.
He loves Miami sports. He
Yeah,
loves South Florida sports.
yeah. So I gave that to him for his birthday one year. I just thought it was honestly just like sitting, and I was like, he would love this, man. Like, let me give this to him. It's just like sitting in my closet. So, but I had one Yankee one and I had one Marlins one. They were like the same thing but different years. So, but yeah, so growing up, like I said, my dad grew up in Louisiana and he lived in North Louisiana, right? So I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan, which when people hear Dallas Cowboy and Yankees, they're like, okay, you're just a bandwagon fan, which makes sense. I gotta understand why people think that. But my dad grew up in North Louisiana, and Dallas was like an hour and a half away from where he lived. So he was a Dallas Cowboy fan. And the Saints didn't even exist until he was like 15 years old. So my grandfather kind of like became a Saints fan because they lived in Louisiana or whatever. But my dad was just always a Dallas Cowboy fan. That was his team growing up. And then my dad, his main sport that he played was baseball. And my dad grew up in the 50s and 60s. And so on TV during those years, it was like the Yankees were like the only team that were on TV. And so he became a Mickey Mantle fan. And so he was just a Yankee fan. And so that's how I became fans of Dallas. But to be honest with you, like I still root for Dallas, but I've become more of a Cincinnati Bengals fan because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
I can see that, yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just follow my LSU guys a little more than like rooting for, which is weird because I'm like a very loyal like sports fan. So I think I'll always like be a Dallas Cowboy fan. But I will say if the Bengals and Dallas like played in the Super Bowl, I would be rooting for the Bengals. Like not even close.
Then that kind of tells you your fandom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that though. I've gotten more into like following Gator players around, but there hasn't really been like one that to me that stood out. That's like I like them and I like this team. When I think about like just like it's definitely not ones like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin
They're at
Jefferson,
more
right?
like niche positions.
Very niche positions like D end or maybe a linebacker, maybe a corner here and there. But one thing that I do hold on to, and that's why I have his jersey actually for Seattle, even though this wasn't his favorite time playing for them, but Percy Harvin, like by far my favorite Florida player. And he played on that 2013 Seahawks team. Now, granted, like he was injured most of the year, but he even took a kick return back in the Super Bowl. And so so love him or hate him, like he is part of that. He's part of the greatest Seahawks team that they've had.
Yeah,
and he's definitely my favorite Gator player. So I just felt like I'm like, yep, I live in Seattle. I have his jersey. Yeah,
that's dope.
I'm a Seahawks fan.
That's dope. Yeah, he's like one of the biggest like what if stories, right? Like because he had injuries and specifically like the migraines, which is super strange. Like I don't think I've ever heard of another athlete that like was legitimately like their career cut short because of migraines, which is wild. But I know he had some other injuries too, but like that was like a chronic thing.
The chronic was migraines. And I mean, I think about like, you remember like in The Last Dance, Scottie Pippen, he had a migraine.
Yeah,
he was having to play the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? He's like, when you have a migraine and you have to play against Dennis Rodman, like, like I was like, dang, that sucks.
That's crazy.
So when I think about that, I'm like, ooh, Percy had to have a migraine and he had to go play against like Patrick Willis or try to get covered by Darrell Reeves. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, that's gonna suck. You know what I mean?
And those bright lights coming down.
Yeah, bright lights, it's super overstimulating, which made me realize, I was like, oh, that's probably why he never wore a visor, because of the light reflecting off of it. He even went so far to say that like because of like the migraines and anxiety, he used to like smoke weed before every game. Like he's like, there's not a game I played in that I wasn't high, is what he said verbatim. And I'm like, that checks. That actually, I can see that helping out. You know, I can see that helping out a lot when you have all of that stress on you.
Bro, he was so when he was in college, I couldn't stand him because he was just a touchdown waiting to happen, man. Like it was crazy.
He was.
But like when he wasn't playing against your team, he was just so much fun to watch, bro. He was so good, man. He was so good. I will die on this hill that like Tim Tebow is arguably the greatest college quarterback of all time. But I'm telling you, the receivers he had, bro, there's so many times I watch back the highlights and I'm like, was Tim Tebow that good, like that good of a passer? Because like him and Murphy, bro, Lewis Murphy, were making
Lewis
some
Murphy
crazy catches, bro.
savage and super. And people underestimate how fast Lewis Murphy was. Like he
Yeah,
was
bro.
insanely fast. You know, I get into arguments on Twitter with Gator fans about this all the time because the debate is like who carried the team, Tebow or Percy. And I straight up am like I'm like this. I'm like I will die on this hill alone that Percy was more valuable to UF success than Tim Tebow.
Yeah,
No disrespect to Tebow, but it's
yeah,
Percy Harvin that we're talking about here.
yeah, yeah. Now Tim Tebow's like his like will to win was like unmatched. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and when he would run the ball, he was just like he would not get denied. You know, very often. So
Like
I'll give him
he was
that for
getting that
sure.
touchdown or getting those yards. He was
Yeah,
gonna get that.
yeah, yeah. And he
Yeah.
was obviously like unbelievable leader, like all that stuff. But man, like those weapons that he had. And again, I'm not saying like he was like not good. Like that's not what I'm saying. But there was so often when he would just like toss it out, you know, toss it out to.
Yeah.
And granted, I know people you could say that about like Joe Burrow or whatever, but Joe Burrow was throwing the ball like down the field, like
Oh yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Joe Burrow was throwing dots. Like he could throw a
Yeah,
slant or throw like a quick out or a hitch, but then he's also throwing a deep post pattern
yeah,
to these guys and hitting them on the money too.
yeah,
You know, something that I think about like with Tebow and you know Percy and all of those guys is you know it's so easy to remember Tebow because he was the leader. And football
yeah.
is one of those games that's so subject to momentum, so subject to emotion. I was actually just
Hmm.
having this conversation the other day. It's one of those games where like once momentum is swung, like you can take a team that's a Cinderella and they can upset a big juggernaut team,
Yeah,
right? And
yep,
so when you have a leader like Tebow and you have like athletes around them like Lewis Murphy, Percy Harvin, Chris Rainey, Jeff Demps, you know, when you have
yeah,
like guys who can who know how to do their job effectively, you
yeah,
know, it's not a shocker that they were as successful as they were, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that same way with LSU in 2019, right? Like I
yeah.
thought those guys, like when I remember Justin Jefferson specifically, right? This is right before they played Florida, actually. So both
Hmm.
Florida and LSU were undefeated, and Justin Jefferson went on SEC Network and was doing an interview and was just basically saying like, yeah, we hear they say that they're DBU, but we're LSU and we're gonna show
Yeah.
you who's really DBU. And I remember being like scared. I
Yeah.
remember watching that just being like, oh my gosh, what is it about these guys? But there was this belief. And you know, we saw what happened after that, right?
Yeah.
Like they continue to just go on and win and dominate. And so like when you have like one or two or three players that are really good and really
Hmm.
motivational, it can really elevate a team. You
Yeah.
know, it can
Yeah.
really put a team over the top. It almost gives me like excitement. I think that's probably one of the things I'm really excited about with the Gators this fall with Lagway, like because
Hmm.
he has the talk of that, and he has some play behind him, but also there are things about his play that I want him to clean up, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, but it's I think that's also the excitement about just football in general, right? Like just it's subject to momentum, it's subject to emotion and
Yep.
motivation that
Yep.
unlike I feel like other sports.
Yeah. And bro, it's crazy because like that's why I never like now again, I know I guess I kind of said something like this, but like, you know, obviously every great team and every great quarterback is partially great because they have great players around them, right? Like what we were just talking about with Tebow and all the weapons or whatever. But like I just remember when, and granted, this is hindsight because obviously no one's saying this now, like with how good Joe Burrow's been in the NFL. But I remember there's a brother who I won't say his name that was with us, who was with us in Gainesville, and this was right after the 2019 season when Joe Burrow was going into the draft, and it was like,
Mhm.
is it going to be Joe Burrow? Is it going to be Tua number one? You know, whatever. And so there was Brad Bell in Gainesville had just put up like a Facebook post that was just like, oh, like who's I think he said like who's the best college football quarterback or college SEC quarterback like ever or whatever. And he was like, I think it's Joe Burrow or whatever. And it was right after like that season. And then I had said something, and then like another brother jumped on. He was just like arguing with me about like Tim Tebow, and I was like not even really arguing. I was like, hey, you could have that he had like the better overall career, because Tim Tebow did have a better overall college career than Joe Burrow.
Sure.
And I was like giving little digs, if I'm being honest, because I was like, are you bragging that your quarterback like plateaued? Like I was like, is that what you're arguing? And this was before the NFL draft, right? And so this guy said, he said, I'll bet right now that Tim Tebow's pro career will be better than Joe Burrow's pro career. And then he said, and he'll win more playoff. Like, I think Tim Tebow has 1 playoff win or 2 playoff wins. And he was like, he'll have, Tim Tebow will have more. Basically, he was saying Joe Burrow was good because of the talent around him. Right.
Yeah.
But what I was explaining to him, I say that story to say they had that almost exact same team the year before. And I know like you improve from year to year, but that was like, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
And obviously when you're close to a team, like when it's your favorite team, you know all the ins and outs that like other people don't. But like, I just know because I listen to LSU stuff like all the time that off season when they brought in, now granted, a big part of that was Joe Brady, who they brought in, from the Saints, who helped create that offense. But they, every day during the summer, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrace Marshall, well, the receivers, they did 1,000 catches a day, because one of the issues that they had, like Justin Jefferson included, the year before was drops. Like they had a lot of drops, and they dropped nothing in 2019. Like they caught everything. And to this day, like Justin Jefferson does not drop the ball. Like he just doesn't. And Jamar Chase too. And they like attributed that to like that summer. It said it was the summer of 10,000 catches is what they called it. And it was like, so wait, I said 1,000 a day, but I think that's too many. I can't remember how many they did, but it was like over the course of like a month or two, they did like 10,000 catches a piece. And they would do these.
I believe.
Yeah. And they would do these different drills where it was like there would be like an open door to where they couldn't see the ball, and then they would walk through and the ball would just like be there. There was like all these different little drills that they did, and then did drills with Joe Burrow too. So it was like they put in the work to get to that. It wasn't just like, oh, Joe Burrow had all this talent. Like he helped cultivate that. I mean,
Justin Jefferson was like a 2-star or a 3-star. He wasn't like
exactly.
He wasn't like Jeremiah Smith out here. I remember, and same with Jamar Chase. This is what made me mad.
He was a 5-star.
He was actually committed to Florida for a little bit.
I remember.
There was a time he was committed to Florida for a little bit.
And then he was going to go to TCU. He was going to go to TCU too.
I'm just like I remember from the 2018 to 2019, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, they're good. Like I remember watching the LSU Texas game because that was the weekend of my wedding, right? And we were all watching that together. And I remember thinking, okay, LSU, good. I was like, how good can they be? We beat them last year. We beat them in 2018.
Yeah, I was at that game in 2018.
And they were just dominating, though. They went into every game. It didn't matter if, your team could score 20 points. They were just going to score 40.
Yeah.
They just were. Like, all they needed to do was get maybe 1 or 2 stops on defense. And then you were already cooked. Like, if you could not keep up with them, you just weren't. It just wasn't going to happen.
It's crazy because I think the final score of the UF LSU game 2019 was 42-28. And that was like one of the closest games they played outside of Auburn. Auburn was the closest.
And Alabama, I think. Because Alabama, it looked like a blowout.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I was like, dang, LSU was about to just destroy them. But then Bama just had a surge and just came back.
Yeah. I remember they ran one of the most tricky plays, and we'll wrap up here soon. But we might have to make this into 2 episodes, I guess, because I was like, oh, we'll do like another 30 minutes. But so when Alabama started to come back in that game, that was when Derek Stingley was there. He was a true freshman, and he was guarding Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith was still there, right? Yeah. So in the fourth quarter, they ran a play, because you know how in college, especially, not so much in the pros, how they'll get set and then like all the receivers and everybody will look up to like change the play or whatever. Yeah. So they did that, but they faked it to where they all looked up for like a second, but then they went. And so as soon as they all looked up, Derek Stingley looked to the sideline, and then they snapped it right when Derek Stingley like turned his head, and Devontae Smith was gone, and they scored a touchdown on that play.
It
And
was
I
like
think
you
that
ain't catching Smitty.
no, absolutely not. And I remember Derek Stingley was so mad because the sideline was trying to get his attention, and so he looked over, and then as soon as he looked back and saw that he was gone, he was basically just like, leave me alone, like stop distracting me. But yeah, that was a big part of the comeback, and then LSU was able to hold him off. But yeah, that game was crazy, man.
That was
Because
crazy.
it looked like it was going to be a blowout, which is like, we're going to blow out Alabama, and then nope.
And it was at Alabama too. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what
Yeah.
is happening here?
Yeah, they were smashing them in the first
I remember
half.
watching that and just being like, man, LSU. We all know who's gonna win the national title now. Like it's not a question at this point.
Yeah, it's
We know
crazy
who-
because the day after the national championship game, because the national championship game is always on a Monday, and so this was when I was on staff in Broward, and we always have staff meeting Tuesday morning. So the national championship, and so Tony Fernandez is like a Clemson fan, like randomly. I think
I knew
because
that. Yeah.
I think it's because he's really close to the Porters, and the Porters are Clemson
Okay,
fans.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I think that's how he became a Clemson fan.
Yeah, because John Porter went to Clemson. If I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think because he was so close to their family, I think he just kind of adopted it. Because I don't think he really had like a team that he like cheered for before that. So anyway, so he was obviously like cheering for Clemson or whatever. So I just remember the next day at staff meeting, he was like, oh yeah, like he was like, it was like closer than the score said or whatever. And I was like, bro, I was like, they, I don't even remember what the final score is, which was crazy, but I think they won by 17, and they kneeled it out at like the 5-yard line. Like they could have easily scored again. So, and they obviously were down by 10 early. So
Yeah, you don't win, you don't score 42 points and get held under 30 and say it was a close game. Like
Yeah.
that's like even for the Gator game against LSU that year, I was like, man, that was close at some point, but LSU pulled away. They got the crucial stop, and then they were able to score again. Like
yeah,
that's not a close game
Yeah.
anymore.
I think the funniest fans to me, and again, I won't say any names, but there's certain fans where I'm just like, I feel like you don't really understand football that much. Because I remember like what a lot of Florida fans would say to me in that game. Because it was it Kyle Trask was the quarterback in that game?
Kyle Trask was the quarterback. It was his first year as a starter. Yeah, because Felipe Frank got injured that year.
That's right. Which is funny because Felipe Franks was committed to LSU for like 3 years and then decommitted.
And I ain't gonna lie, I wish y'all.
I'm glad y'all did take him. I was upset, and then after his career played out, I was like, man, well, I'm glad we didn't get him. Oh, and he like tried to change to tight end in the NFL or something like that. But anyways, but a lot of he is athletic. But yeah, a lot of Florida fans after that game were like, oh well, it was close because the only reason it wasn't close is because Kyle Trask threw that interception in the end zone. I was like, but that's part of the game. Like, what are you talking about? That's literally like saying like it would have been closer if Joe Burrow didn't throw that touchdown.
Yeah. Usually when you make arguments about it should have been closer, you would think it would be connected to something outside of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like the ref had called this or did this, right?
Yeah, injuries.
Or injury, right? But
Yeah.
to say like, oh, he should have thrown that pick, or they should have went for that extra point, or they did that fake, right? Like it's like that's strategy. That's part of football.
Yeah, I had one.
That's how football works.
Yeah, I had one Florida fan text me after that game, and they're like, we'll see you in Atlanta. I was like, okay.
Not gonna lie, I was really hoping for a rematch in Atlanta. I genuinely was. So I was upset about the LSU game, but I was more upset about the Georgia game.
Yeah.
Because we lost that one by like, I think the final score was like 23-17. And what made me mad more than anything was the Georgia like went for their third down conversion rates was like, they were like 10 for 12 on third down. Like we could not get off the field on third down. And that's what really killed the team. So I was just like, man, if we could have just gotten one or two stops in that game, it would have been a rematch, and I was looking forward to that, but we never got it because Florida couldn't beat Georgia. I was like, well, that's That's football.
Yeah, man. That season was crazy, and I think that, and then we can wrap
It
up
was
after
our
this
last
because we're
normal season.
yeah.
That was pre NIL. We had the
Exactly.
Pac-12 going strong. Like that was
Yeah.
our last normal season, honestly.
So it's funny that you say that because I was literally just about to say, I was like, I think moving forward, it's going to be real interesting. And I know they're like starting to maybe like talk about some legislation with like NIL and whatever. But like, I think that it will narrow down like who's going to be consistently good. Like when I say that, it's like I feel like there's always been teams that are consistently good, right? Like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia are the main three of the last while. But then you have the second tier of teams that are consistent, like the LSU's, the Notre Dame's, Oregon, whatever.
Yeah.
But with this NIL stuff, the teams like Oregon and Ohio State, Texas, who have unlimited money supply, Texas A&M, like those are the teams that I think will be consistently good. But I think what will be interesting with NIL is I think every once in a while you'll randomly have a team that maybe they don't win it all, but you're going to have more random teams that just pop up because like one year they're going to like spend a bunch of money and they're like go all in, like SMU this past season, it's like where'd they come from?
I think we're gonna see that even with like I'm thinking like Stanford one of these years is gonna be really like just gonna come out of nowhere. I can see like
Indiana now.
Yeah, Indiana or like places that got like a huge endowments or just huge funds toward athletics. I think we're gonna really see like they can put randomly. I have a feeling we might see Duke.
Yeah, I was gonna say the basketball schools that want to like try to like North Carolinas and Dukes, Kentucky's maybe that want to like allocate some things to football or whatever. So, but yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how that. Because I was thinking about that. I was watching a show where they were interviewing Curt Cignetti, the coach for Indiana, and he kind of put that thought in my head because he was talking about how it takes time and money to like be consistently good kind of thing. And, and he was saying that he was like, it was kind of coach speak a little bit because he was trying to like say, it was almost like he was trying to say like, it takes time. So like, if we're not as good as we were last year, but then he ended it where he was like, but he's like, that doesn't mean that we can't win this year, kind of thing. So it was
man, Cignetti is on my list, man, because he said him and Jed Fish at Washington were going off about like how weak the SEC's schedule is. And so I was just like, you're Indiana, you're Washington, like
yeah.
Like they were getting upset about the fact that the SEC schedules like FCS schools late in the year, and it's like, okay, that's because we have to play Texas and LSU and Georgia week in and week out. Give us a break. They're like, whereas like in the Big Ten they play a 9-conference schedule. I'm like, that's great. You get Iowa and Illinois and Northwestern. Like, of course you're not going to play an FCS school. You have opponents that you can easily dominate.
Basically have FCS schools in your conference.
Yeah.
You have like Iowa who can't.
How dare you try to compare? Yeah. I'm like, how dare you try to compare Minnesota to
Yeah. You got like Iowa that's putting up like baseball scores in their offense.
Iowa's points per. I gotta look that up. Like Iowa's points per game is like probably around 15.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, for sure. But okay, well. We'll wrap it. We're over an hour, and then we already had 30 minutes from the other day. So I might have to put these out too, like separately.
We can chop them up.
Yeah, I could chop them up, or I could just put one long one. We'll see how it works. But all right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We obviously, if you've stayed this long and listened to us, we're super passionate about sports, so we want to sprinkle in some more sports stuff along with like the fun topics and along with the serious topics. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the football talk. And again, if you are watching this, please share on your socials, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube. Just share them to your socials. And then also if you are wanting to donate and help out in any way, our website for that is ko-fi.com/in with Denoux. We would be very, very appreciative if you're willing. No pressure on that. But thank you again for joining us. And we will see you again next week. We're signing off.
We out.